I'm just going to do what I usually do, which is check to make sure that everything is successfully streaming. But while I do that, I have some news. So unfortunately, we will not be doing Dark Souls, at least for the next half hour to an hour or so, because Liam is unavailable for the foreseeable future. But that is actually good news, because that means we are going to start a little something I like to call Baldur's Gate. There we go.
No, you can't. I will be the last. And you will go first. Please!
And that right there is your first intro to Baldur's Gate. All right. So, this game is actually the reason I started this stream. I had actually started running a Let's Play of Baldur's Gate many years ago, and that was a very far. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, but that actually kind of stopped because the computer I was playing it on actually crashed and died and took the entire save away. The YouTube channel on which I've been uploading the streams I've been doing has the first 10 episodes of that playthrough. And the interesting thing about that playthrough is that I went into the game files and modified the player character and turned him into a mind flayer, into an illithid. Now, for those of you who've been keeping track of the Baldur's Gate situation, Baldur's Gate 3 is coming out hopefully by the end of this year. And illithids are going to be a big thing in that game. Illithids, mind flayers, these tentacle Cthulhu-esque monstrosities, they're one of my absolute favourite things in D&D, full stop. From like pretty much almost before I even knew what Lovecraft was in any real detail, I just love the concept behind these particular monsters. And they are going to be the primary villain, the primary focal point of Baldur's Gate 3, which I love. But something else we learned when the trailer for Baldur's Gate 3 was released is that another one of my absolute favourite races, full stop, is going to be inherently in the Baldur's Gate 3 game, and that is the Gith-Yankee. The Gith-Yankee were a monster invented by Charles Stross, who I got to meet him many, many years ago. Wonderful guy. Like, we kept in email contact for a few years after that. Yeah, like when I met him, I had no idea he was the guy who invented one of my favorite freaking races. But the Gith-Yankee and the Mind Flayers were eternally at war, and there's a whole huge history, some of which I'll probably talk about during this game. But when I decided, hey, I'm going to do another playthrough of Baldur's Gate, I'm going to stream it, I'm going to record the whole thing, I'm going to make myself a Gith-Yankee. So, on YouTube right now, if you go to my YouTube channel, you will see at least a few episodes of me playing through as a Mind Flayer. They're not fantastic, it's literally my first attempt at recording playthrough. Also, the sound half note down thing just happened, it's a Twitch issue confirmed. Julie, thank you for letting me know that. Thank you. Because I have not heard it at all on my end. So I'll try and look into that between games. Back to what I was saying though. like the previous game I did Mind Player, like the previous one that I recorded, I played as a Mind Player. This time I'm going to play as a Gith-Yankee. So I went into the game files. I made a Gith-Yankee character. I rolled up a character. I just rolled up a straight up character, as I will show you how that happens. Like, I'm going to go... This is going to be a completionist run. I'm going to show you every single part of this game. Everything. If I miss something, I am going to be amazed at it, or it, you know, or it may be one of those things where I have to choose between either this thing or this thing, but at that point I'll probably just tell you what the other thing was. So I'm going to show you the character creation. We're going to roll up a character, and then I will show you, like, the character I already made, which is the Gith-Yankee, who I added, like, the stat bonuses, the, like, all the things, the template for a Gith-Yankee. I wrote it into this game so that I could play it with you now. Does this mean we get to roast you if you miss something? Yes. Yes, it does. But you can't roast me until the end of the game, because from almost the entire game, I can go back and do something. So if you think I've missed it, I probably haven't. I've just either deliberately or accidentally ignored it up until that point. Yeah, if it does look like I'm going to miss something, feel free to point it out just in case I have forgotten it's there. What was I saying? Right, so as I said, this is going to be a completionist run through. I made my modifications to the player character. Nothing dramatic. I just calibrated the stat boosts so that it was actually correct. I gave myself a couple of Gith-Yankee powers, which specifically are Blur and Dimension Door, which will probably become quite useful and quite powerful later, but I'm not going to allow myself much use of them early on, because by the time I hit level 5, I think it is, Gith-Yankee get 3 uses of Blur and 3 uses of Dimension Door, but the game will be starting at 1. So rather than having to try and re-edit the character every few levels, I just gave myself the full uses of those, and I'm just going to manually restrict myself, just not use those abilities. Gith-Yankee also get magic resistance, which I couldn't really tailor, but in order to maintain that theme, the class that I'm going to be playing is called Wizard Slayer, and the Wizard Slayer, every time you level up, gets some magic resistance. So I've given the Gith-Yankee a small amount of magic resistance to start with, and then we're going to progress from there. It's slowly just going to build up and up via the class. I've planned a lot of this game out just mentally, like I planned my build, planned the character, all that sort of thing, so that I can give you the most rewarding experience possible. But enough from me, because you're going to be getting a lot more from me anyway, but enough from me. Let's actually show you this game. So, new game. So, I'm just going to sort of speed run through the character creation stuff. So, we can pick ourselves a portrait. You know what, that looks nice, let's just go with that. This is clearly a dwarf, but I can pick human, elf, half-elf, dwarf, halfling, gnome, half-orc. So I'll run through very quickly what all of these are, because I'm just going to work on the assumption, like, I'm doing completionist, I might as well tell you pretty much everything and be quick about it. So every race gets its small benefits. Elves get bonuses to Constitution Dexterity, some thieving bonuses, weapon skill bonuses, some pretty good resistance to charm and sleep magics. However, that wasn't actually implemented in this game. I think the Enhanced Edition fixed that, but in the original version, they actually forgot to put that in. Half-elf gets a little bit of what an elf gets, but there is a key difference between elf and half-elf, and I will get to that in a moment when I actually talk about humans in particular. Dwarves get, extra constitution, but lose out on dexterity and charisma, but they get good saves against paralysis, some minor thieving skills, and dwarves get access to a class that nobody else gets access to. So that's something. Halflings, bonuses with slings in particular, good dexterity, negatives to strength and wisdom, blah blah blah. Bonuses on paralysis, poison, so on and so forth. Gnomes. Gnomes have got something interesting about them. Similar to dwarves, they have a certain thing with classes that's unique to them. You can multi-class... with gnomes, you can be an illusionist, and you can multi-class as an illusionist. You can have two classes running at the same time. I'll talk more about that in a moment. But they can't multi-class with any other kind of mage class. They have to be an illusionist. Anyway, they get just some bonus to intelligence, negative to wisdom, some minor thieving benefits, and some saves versus spells. Half-orcs. Bit of extra strength, bit of extra constitution, negative to intelligence. And then we get to humans. So humans look like they've got nothing going for them. This is where one of the big differences between all of the races comes into play, that it doesn't tell you at this stage, and that's the classes. There are 3 ways to do classes in this game. There is pick one class and just go with that for the entire game. There is multi-classing, where you pick any 2, or in some cases 3 classes, and you level up in all of them at the same time. So when you earn experience, it's split between all 3 classes, and so you have a much lower rate. You very slowly go up in class levels, but you go up in more than one class. Now, not every multi-class combination is available to every race. So, for example, if I go half-elf, and then I go class, you can see that they've got access to pretty much everything, which is what one of the great things about half-elf is. They've got access to fighter thief, fighter druid, cleric mage, fighter mage cleric, whatever. But look at fighter druid here. See, take a note of that one. And now I'm going to go back, and let's go for a dwarf. Class. Its options are much more limited. Baldur's Gate is based on 2nd edition D&D, and in 1st and 2nd edition D&D, your race dictated what classes were even available to you. So dwarves have very limited class options. Elves also have limited class options. Half-elves don't have as much, but they still multi-class. Then we get to humans. Humans cannot multi-class. So remember how I said there were 3 ways to do classes? There was one class, multi-classing, and then the 3rd way is for the way humans do it, which is dual classing, which is what I'll actually be using for this playthrough. The way dual classing works is you pick one class, you progress in that class, and then at some point you go, I'm going to stop progressing in this class. I'm going to pick an entirely new class and start progressing in that. Now, you can never go back to the first class. You can never progress that any further. So if you went, I'm a rogue and at level 6, and you stop being a rogue at level 6 and change to another class, you can never go back to being a rogue. And the entire class is actually deactivated. You don't get pretty much any of the benefits. You get a couple, like your hit point total, but most of the benefits of the class you lose. But once, say I switched over to mage, once I hit level 7 of mage, so I was 6 rogue, now I've gone 1 above that, I'm now level 7 of mage, I get all the benefits of being a level 6 rogue back. What this means is that you can actually, like, if you're willing to take that hit in the mid-game, you can actually be much more powerful as a human than any other class. Because while multi-classing has massive perks and single-classing is one of the fastest ways to get experience and to gain level, every new level costs more and more experience. So the amount of experience you need to get from, say, level 10 to level 11 is almost the amount of experience you need to get to every level up to level 8. For most of the classes. For some it's higher, for some it's less. Every class has a different amount of experience it needs. But what that means is that if I were to go, cool, I'm going to go to level 10 as a mage, and then I'm going to go to cleric, have a mage cleric thing going on. the maximum level you can reach in this game, in this particular game, it's about level 10, depending on what class you pick. But in the entirety of Baldur's Gate, your maximum possible level is level 40. But the jump to get from level 39 to level 40 is nearly a million. Well, for most classes, it's about 250,000 XP. For some, it's about 500,000 XP. But at 500,000 XP, most classes would be about level 12. So you can effectively go, I'm going to be level 39 of whatever class I want, and level 12 of an entirely different class. Whereas every single class combination can only get to level 40, and every multi-class combination usually stops in the 20s. So, yeah, humans get a massive boost in terms of what maximum potential they can reach in terms of classes, so long as they're willing to suffer the hit. I am willing to suffer the hit, so the class that I actually run for the playthrough will in fact be human translated into Gith-Yankee so that I can do the dual classing thing. But for the purpose of right now, we're just going to do half-elf and fight a mage thief, because I can. Allows me to show you the most of everything. We pick our alignment. If you're familiar with D&D, you know you can pick whatever alignment. Half-elf cannot notably pick lawful... it's not a half-elf. The thief cannot pick lawful good, so that's why lawful good is not listed as an option. Just going to pick anyone. Abilities. Now, this is what I said when I was saying I was rolling stats earlier. I can keep re-rolling stats, and if I like the total, I go store, which means if I re-roll more stats, and I hit recall, it brings up that total. Now I can keep rolling all day. You can literally, back in the day, people used to spend hours on this, and yes, I know I missed an 83, but it doesn't really matter, because I'm just doing this for the example. But, like, people used to spend hours doing this. Because you could, hypothetically, it was really freaking rare, but you could actually roll over 90. Whereas most rolls are about, you know, in the high 70s, low 80s, you could hypothetically roll around 91, 92. So if you're willing to spend hours on it, you can get some pretty damn good stats. I didn't spend hours on it when I pre-built the previous character, but that's not the point. The point is you have each of your different stats. Now, which stats are the most important really depends on what class you picked. Obviously, the race impacts what your maximum and minimum is. But the main thing I want to show you right now is this. So, strength, when you go from 17 to 18, it does this weird percentage thing. So in 2nd edition, you could go, like, there was 18, /1 to 50, 18, 50 to 65, 18, 65 to 75, whatever, so on and so forth. So, like, slowly getting... And every stage in that 18 was a significant boost on the previous. And it was just this weird thing that they did to make Strength 18 specifically expand out and just to really sort of broaden that part of the spectrum out. However, during gameplay, I can't remember what I actually got for my strength. I think it was strength 50-something, or it might have been 60-something. Like, this is 1849, but it doesn't matter. If I re-roll and pump that up, I get a different number. But no matter what number I get there, if I later get something that boosts my strength, that gives me a +1 to my strength, it just immediately jumps to 19. So that's a little something to be aware of. If you want to make this game and you want to play a character who has high strength in particular, the total roll isn't the only thing that matters. Getting a high number, so 1899 or 1800, because 00 is 100, getting the high number is very important, but only for strength. None of the other attributes do that. It is only strength that does that. Anyway, I don't really care too much about these stats. They're just here for the sake of example. Skills. So, these are my thieving skills. I've got 40 points I can spend into the... I'll get to this later. I've got 40 points I can spend in these. If this is your first time playing Baldur's Gate, the most important thing to actually really invest in is find traps. Open locks is also important because that allows you to disarm traps, but finding traps is very important in this game. Pickpockets, not so much. Open locks is also important if you want to explore the entirety of the world. Also, somebody let me know if I need to turn the audio down or not, because I forgot to adjust the audio. Move silently and hide in shadows are great for your thieving backstabs, but there's a bunch of different ways to do that. And set traps is also really useful as a thief, and detect illusions is useful, but fundamentally these two are your absolute most important. I will warn you against pickpockets. The reason I warn you against pickpockets is, for most of these stats, it works like a percentage. So if you get them up to 100, fantastic. You have a 100% chance, or rather a 99.999 whatever percent chance of succeeding at the given task. Now, for something like open locks, it's a set value. So if you have open locks at 60, I think it is, you can open almost every single lock in this game. I think there's a couple of locks that actually go up to 80, but that's it. Pretty much every single lock in this game, if you get that to 60, you're done. You can stop there. Find traps, the higher it gets, the faster you find the traps, and the more likely you will find the trap in any given second of the game. So getting both of them pretty high up is very good. But pickpockets is quite different. The rest of these work on like that percentage. Pickpockets, you roll, but behind the scenes, the game rolls a percentage chance versus your opponent's counter pickpockets roll, their ability to spot you trying to pick their pockets. And almost every single merchant in this game, or everybody who's worth trying to pick pockets, already has over 100 in resisting your roll. So in order to reliably pickpocket anyone in this game, you need to invest something like 160 odd points into pickpockets just to be reliable. It's not a guarantee, but just to be able to do it reliably. So it's, unless you're going pure thief, it's really not worth investing heavily in pickpockets. These are the two you want to invest in. These ones, if you want to make use of your backstab ability, so if you want to, backstab is where you do your damage multiplies if you actually stab someone in the back, or if you stab someone, if you manage to make yourself invisible, either by using these abilities or by using a spell or a potion. So long as you're invisible and undetected, if you then attack someone, you multiply your damage. Detect illusions doesn't come up that much, but it's useful to have when it does. And set traps, if you're playing a rogue, you can set traps that deal damage, and if your enemy walks on them, massive amounts of damage. Those are all different ways to play a rogue in particular. So for the time being, I'm just going to up that to 50 because I can. So, on the left-hand side, this looks super different. Yeah, I'm playing Baldur's Gate because my partner for Dark Souls is currently unavailable. So I decided to start the Baldur's Gate stream early, and right now I'm just doing a demo of character creation, and then, because I didn't mention this earlier, I will be doing a demo of the hardest possible mode of gameplay. I'm not going to play through the whole game in the hardest possible gameplay, but I wanted to show you the hardest possible gameplay, because it's the stupidest bug at the very start of the game. It is so stupid and so hilarious, I just have to show it to you. So be excited for that. Regardless, the next thing, I have 4 proficiency slots. Now I've got 4 because I'm a fighter. Most classes only get 2 at this point. But you basically just pick what weapon you want to specialize in and go there. But there's a little bit more to it. So first off, if you you've got 5 ranks in each of these. Proficient, no penalties. 2 slots specialized, you get a +1 to hit, +2 to damage, and if you are a fighter, you actually get an extra attack, or half an extra attack. Ignore the maths, it's weird. Think of it like you get an extra attack. All the way up to 5. Now, most everybody stops at 2. Like, almost every class. Some classes can only get to 1 in any given thing. Like, a mage can only invest in 1. Most stop at 2. But fighters and certain other classes can actually reach 5, which is +3 to hit, +5 to damage, -3 to speed factor, which is your initiative. It's how fast you can move. Your initiative in this game is based on a combination of your dexterity and what weapon you are using. Again, 2nd edition rules. 2nd edition, if you've ever heard of it, are the days of Thaco. I'm not going to be talking a lot about that. I'll spare you that. But again, you get a full extra attack every single round with a selected weapon, which is significantly better than the extra half attack that the other levels got. But I can pick whatever weapon I want, so let's up that. Now, I can only put 2 in it at the moment, but eventually, because I'm playing a fighter, I can put it up to 5. Just a character creation, I'm limited to 2. But then you have this, the different styles. So this is like an extra boost. If you're using a 2-handed weapon, halberd, 2-handed sword, whatever, you can also invest in 2-handed weapon style to get extra bonuses. So +1 to bonus to damage rolls and -2 speed factor, and increases critical hits. Sword and shield, single weapon, 2-weapon style. So in other games you get, like in 3rd edition, you get feats. 2nd edition doesn't really deal with feats at all. This is the fighting side of things for feats. So yeah, I'm just going to, for sake of example, invest into weapon style, and we go done. Now I get to pick some spells, or I would, but I actually don't have a high enough intelligence to pick any spells, because I'm a genius and left my intelligence to be quite low. The reason I wanted to show you the spells though is actually for this spell in particular. Only the player character gets access to this spell. Or rather, everybody gets access to this spell, but only the player character can cast this spell. Find Familiar gives you a small companion who you can, instead of having him wander around the place, pick him up and stuff him in your backpack. But the big thing that the Familiar gives you is he gives you a percentage increase to your character's hit points, which is a really big deal at low levels. Blah, 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 blah. Where is it? A mage has 12 hit points and casts Find Familiar. The imp summoned has 9 hit points, so the caster gets a bonus of 4 hit points. The caster now has 16 hit points. If the familiar dies, the caster loses those hit points, which is why sticking them in your backpack is a good plan. But only the player character gets access to that. You could have an entire party of mages, and only the player character can use Find Familiar. It's the only spell in the game that works like that. I'm not entirely sure why they decided to do that, but it's a thing. And yeah, your alignment dictates what you get. You can get a ferret. I just felt that pointing out that you can have a ferret as your companion was important. I apparently... Why... Hang on, I'm just going to do this again. Sorry, it wasn't that my intelligence was too low. It pre-selected 2 spells for me. That's why. So, I'm just going to grab Identify and Find Familiar. I'm going to say Identify is a really nice spell to have, but it's not necessary. What Identify primarily does is it saves you money. If you visit a merchant can identify magical items and stuff for you. That's all it does. Like, you find a magic item, oh, what does this do? I don't know. I can't use these special abilities until I've identified it. Find the merchant, pay 100 gold. At low levels, especially in Baldur's Gate 1, $100 is a freaking lot. Higher levels, not so much. And when you hit Baldur's Gate 2, and eventually you'll even get to the point where your character can actually just, you know, you look at the item and you just go, yeah, I know what this is, and identify becomes effectively useless at that point. That's much later in Baldur's Gate 2, but it definitely does happen. What I will recommend, if you're playing this game, Magic Missile is, like, find familiar, definitely get it. Magic Missile is always a good spell because it automatically hits your opponent. There's no chance of you missing, and it does a decent amount of damage that does actually increase as you increase in level yourself. But a really solid spell to get at low levels is Sleep, because it's only really useful at low levels, but at those low levels you just knock people unconscious and then you just kill them. So Sleep is really good at low levels. This is just as true in the tabletop game as it is in this version of the game. So if you're playing this game and you want to play a mage, I thoroughly recommend picking up Find Familiar and Sleep in specifically. But you can learn more spells as the game goes on. So yes, now at the moment I get to pick one spell to have memorized at the start of the game. So I'm going to have Find Familiar memorized, because why not? Appearance, I get to pick what I look like, change the color scheme, whatever. And then I get to pick my voice. So there are a lot of different voices here.
All will die. Your life shall be mine. Death will come swiftly for you.
I'm just going to go with an elderly female-voiced male dwarf, because why not? That is his name. And then we can go accept and go straight into the game. But to save me time later, I am going to show you the character I made earlier. So, Wizard Slayer, those are the stats. Gith-Yankee get a +2 bonus to their Dexterity and Constitution, which is how I got both of those up to 20. I have decent intelligence, but not fantastic. Wisdom, Charisma. Okay, so something I forgot to mention earlier. Again, if you're playing this game for the first time, knowing how to distribute your stats at the start of the game is important, because unlike in later editions, your stats basically don't go up. Unless you know how to make it go up via very specific in-game things, what you have at the start of the game is all you have for the rest of the game. So, obviously strength is great for hitting things and doing damage in combat. Dexterity is great for not getting hit, and also very good for ranged weapons. Constitution affects your hit points. Intelligence is your arcane spells. Wisdom is your divine spells. And Charisma is pretty much, like, it's pretty much a dump stat in this game. You barely need it for anything, but there are a handful of dialogue choices, and also and by I mean maybe one or two in the entire game. And the main thing that Charisma does in this game is it makes merchants sell things to you for cheaper. It's the main thing it does. It can make people friendlier towards you, but Charisma has one of the lowest impacts in this game, full stop. Because all you have to do is go, I don't mind spending an extra $10. That's basically it. But there are a couple of other things. So, intelligence and wisdom. If your intelligence is between 10 and 14, it doesn't freaking matter. There is no change to there is no benefit to having your intelligence between 10 and 14. If it's over 14, you start getting some benefits. If it's under 10, you start getting some major detriments. But between 10 and 14, they're exactly the same. 11 and 14 are identical. Constitution, however, is kind of the other way around. Between 10 and 16, you get benefits. At 10, the benefit is no penalty. But you get benefits between 10 and 16. That's really helpful. But after 16, only warrior classes get benefits. So a fighter gets benefits, a barbarian gets benefits, but if you're a mage or a thief, and you've got a constitution of 20, it doesn't do anything for you. or it just says, it basically goes, no, you only have 16. There is one slight exception to this, which is why I pumped my constitution up to 20 in particular. Yes, I'm playing a fighter, but I wanted it at 20 at the exclusion of all else. Because in Baldur's Gate, if you can get your constitution to 20, you actually get some regeneration. All of these stats go to a maximum of 25. Like, it's generally not possible to get 25 in run through. But there are some items that give you boosts, at least temporarily. And anytime your constitution is 20 or higher, you get a regeneration bonus, so you just heal hit points over time, which is really freaking useful. Dexterity, everybody loves dexterity. Every rank of dexterity is worth getting. And strength, I've already explained the whole strength thing. Not Lord Zaps, no, we are not doing Lord Zaps now because I wanted to explain this so I don't have to explain it later. Oh no, not evil in Baldur's Gate. I've gone evil for a reason, because it's one of the many things I want to show in this game. It's actually some things that you can only do while evil. Because you can do everything good while evil. But there are some things you can only do while evil that you cannot do while good. This is like Baldur's Gate 1 with Baldur's Gate 2 character creation and classes. Yes. So the Enhanced Edition makes Baldur's Gate 1 a little bit more like Baldur's Gate 2 in a few different ways. Especially in the character creation phase. In the original Baldur's Gate 1, a couple of things were different. Specifically in the weapon proficiencies, but in a couple of other areas they were different. I believe it helps your party stay loyal. Look, it's not your charisma that helps the loyalty of your party. It's your reputation. If your reputation goes too high, if you become too good by reputation, evil characters will leave. If you become too evil by reputation, good characters will leave. And one of the things I love about this game, it's one of the first games in gaming history to kind of do this, is the characters, your companions, if they don't like each other, some of them will leave because they don't like the other character, and some of them will fight each other and will actually try and kill the other. I'm going to try and engineer it so that you actually get to see it at some point during this game. But I didn't know that. All I know is the bloody Flaming Fist murder me immediately if I try to be evil. Yeah, don't do evil things in front of the Flaming Fist. Charisma helps them stay loyal. Yeah, I read that. Yeah, cool. Alright, so this is the character. Now, so you know from the get-go, my plan with this character, I'm gonna go for Baldur's Gate 1, I'm just gonna go pure fighter. But then after Baldur's Gate 1, I'm going to dual class into thief. So for most of the game, we will actually, like, all of Baldur's Gate 2, we will be a thief and or thief fighter dual class. But for now, we're going to be a pure fighter. Not even in front of them, it just gives you a lower starting rep. Yeah. So because I made my character a Gith-Yankee, the game just doesn't know how to render this in. Because the image that you saw earlier, it changes based on what class you've got. So if you dual class, as I am going to do, it will actually change your character, your character's appearance. So you look like a wizard, or so that you look like a rogue. But because I made mine look like a Gith-Yankee, it doesn't know how to compute that here. So none of this stuff matters. Skip it. Now I get to pick my my starting accent. Now, as you may have identified from the portrait, I actually made myself a female.
Your doom approaches.
I'm going to go with this voice because I like it. And Mazarik is the name of a Gith-Yankee I played in a tabletop RPG once. Was very fun to play. Now, this is where we get to the difficulty. So, story mode is not what I'm not going to play. I'm going to be playing in tactical mode. Now, if you play this game and you don't have tactical mode, there's a reason for that. So, I am playing this game with a few mods installed. Not very many. Pretty much all of them are purely to enhance what's already there. So things that the NPCs talking to each other or talking to me, I installed a mod to increase that so that it happens more. There's a bunch, when this game was originally released, a bunch of content was taken out because they just didn't have time to finish it, but the files were still in the game. So a bunch of people just went in, found the parts of the story, you know, like side quests and that sort of thing that were never quite completed, finished them and put them in as a mod. So I've installed those mods. There is the mod that's given me tactical here is called Sword Coast Stratagems, and what that does is it improves the AI of the opponent. So I am already going to be playing this a little bit harder because I've made the game's artificial intelligence actually play a bit smarter. That's where tactical came in from. Excuse me. One mod that I have installed because I freaking love it, but it's completely new content, is the Zahn mod. It's part of an overall NPC mod that just brings more of the NPCs to life and brings more banter in. But I have specifically installed a couple of mods specifically to boost one character, Zahn, because I loved, like, in the original game, he's got nothing. He just exists. But in the mods, holy crap, he brings so much lore of the Forgotten Realms. Whoever wrote the Zahn mod is amazing, and I have so much respect for them. This brings so much lore of the Forgotten Realms into the game, which will give me a lot to talk about because I intend to talk about the lore a lot. So he'll bring up things that you would not get otherwise. It makes the character so much more interesting, so I installed a couple of mods to enhance that in particular. But what I'm going to show you right now, I'm actually going to play the tactical mod when I play officially. But what I'm going to show you right now is the Legacy of Bal mod. So I'm going to read out what it gives you. Enemies have all the benefits of insane difficulty, which is this one. So massive boosts to their abilities, numbers, and so on and so forth. Significantly more hit points, improved THAC0, so improved ability to hit things, saving throws, and more attacks per round. Warning, this can only be selected at the start of the game, and once selected cannot be changed. If I were to pick Insane, and I found the battle too hard, I could actually switch it down to Story mode. But Legacy of Bal mode? No, cannot be switched. One other thing to keep in mind is, note that here, in Story mode, the party gains all the benefits of basic difficulty, and they cannot die in combat. Characters can die. And in any difficulty above basic difficulty, they can permanently die so that you can't resurrect them. If they take too much damage, they will literally explode, and that's it. You have lost that character. So, Legacy of Bal mode, that is very likely to happen. So,
nestled atop the cliffs that rise from the Sword Coast, the citadel of Candlekeep houses the finest and most comprehensive collection of writings on the face of Farron. It is an imposing fortress, kept in strict isolation from the intrigues that occasionally plague the rest of the Forgotten Realms. It is secluded, highly regimented, and it is home. Within these hallowed halls of knowledge, your story begins. You have spent most of your 20 years of life within this keep's austere walls, under the tutelage of the sage Gorion. Acting as your father, he has raised you on 1,000 tales of heroes and monsters, lovers and infidels, battles and tragedies. However, one story was always left untold, that of your true heritage. You have been told that you are an orphan, but your past is largely unknown. Lately, Gorion has been growing distant from you, as if some grave matter weighs heavily on his heart. You have asked about his concerns as gently as possible, but your queries have been in vain. Your sole comfort is the knowledge that he is a wise man, and you know he will tell you when the time is right. Nonetheless, his silence is troubling, and you cannot help but feel that something is terribly wrong. Today, Gorion has appeared more agitated than ever, and now he has uncharacteristically interrupted your chores in the middle of the day, imparting hurried instructions for you to
Excellent
equip
timing of
yourself
the
for
text.
travel. He has handed you what gold he can spare, but given no clue as to why. Nevertheless, you now stand before the Candlekeep Inn, ready to purchase what you need for an unplanned and unexpected journey.
All right, so that's the introduction. Now there are two things I want to show you right now. Oh yeah, so this is what I look like. I'm just going to zoom in a whole lot.
I shall.
So this is what I look like. Now, no matter what weapon I equip, it will always show that sword. That's because this is the only thing that they animated. This is the only model they made for Gith-run. But normally, if you haven't done what I did, which is break into the freaking files and, you know, edit it out, what weapon you choose will change. If you're wearing armor, it will change what armor you are wearing. But this, like, no matter what I do to my character, it will always look like this. So I'm just going to zoom out. Now,
Agreed.
I'm just going to talk to this bloke.
As clean as an
So
elven arse.
this is not normal. This is one of the mods I installed to enhance the flavor of gameplay. It just major characters, or even some minor characters, get portraits. It didn't really happen that much in the original game. There were a couple of people who got portraits, but usually no. Anyway, this is the guy who sells stuff. I'll be taking my time in the actual playthrough. So if you want to rest, if you want to sleep in this game, you either have to do it in an inn or you have to do it in the wilderness. So, you know, you can get a bad sleep or a wonderful sleep depending on how much you're willing to pay. So 8 gold versus 1. I can also buy weapons and other things from this guy. I don't even freaking remember what I decided to... I don't know. Oh right, this
My
one.
hotel's as clean as an elven arse.
So what I want is a flail, not a two-handed sword. I didn't make all my money back because, you know, I'm a smart bastard like that. But, oh, you can also get yourself drunk. This has pretty much no benefit. Like, you can actually, like, if you drink a whole lot, it'll show some rumors. I'll show that to you now. You know, gives you a little bit of a rumor. That is about the only rumor that is of any use in the entire freaking game. Like, you can use rumors. If you don't know the game, you can use rumors to find out where some quests are and where, you know, maybe who to talk to. But you can find that out just by walking around and just talking to people who have names. And I'll show you that in a moment as well. Yeah. Like, the only other thing is you keep drinking and you can get yourself totally drunk and you get a penalty on various rolls. Now what I was saying about names, if I hit the tab button, you'll notice it shows people's names. So these are tutors. They're literally the tutorial. There's a waitress named Linda, there's a guy called Firebeard, Elven hair, and there's Winthorpe. Now, not everybody has a name. Some of them are just noblewomen. But if they have an actual name, they're generally worth talking to. Now, I will show you this.
I shall.
Because a lot of people miss this, and there's a good reason a lot of people miss this, is because most people simply can't access it. Where was it? Oh, it was over there. Wrong thing. So, this chest here. Note, if I hit the tab button, it shows all the things I can pretty much click on. It's locked. Now, I can try and click on my weapon and hit it, and for some locks, you can bash them open that way, but I failed to open the lock. If I have, I think it might be 50 in thieving skills at the start of the game, when I start, there is a gemstone in there that is worth a lot of money. So if you start this game and you're playing a thief and you invest everything in open locks, and possibly if you have high dexterity and or are an elf, or, you know, if you really make sure that you have, it might even be 60 to open that lock, but I think it might just be 50. But if you pump everything you can into opening locks, you can open that and start the game with a hell of a lot of money. There is one other thing to note here. No, not that one. This room? Yes. Now, I can open this chest. Well, I can't because it's locked. I can pick the lock with this guy standing next to me, and I will get experience for picking the lock. In fact, let's see if I can... I can't... If I bash it open, I don't get any experience. But, yep, I've successfully forced the lock open. However, if I then open it and try and take something from it, I'm in his line of sight. He notices and calls the guards. And at this point in the game, I freaking die. So I'm not going to do that right now. But letting you know that that's a thing. Now, these people I will talk to when I actually play the game.
I shall.
But what I want to show you is something rather funny. So, in this game, say you get your thieving skills somehow up to 255. That's great. That's the maximum you can get your thieving skills at. But, if you try and put it up to 256... it suddenly reverts and you go all the way down to 1. It's this like, everything in the game kind of works like that. If you get to, like, if anything allows you to get to 255, it will revert back to 1. I think that's also actually part of why they stop your attributes at 25. I don't know the coding at that sort of level, but yeah, that's a thing. Now, I'm going to talk to this guy.
By Moradin's hammer!
So, in this starting overall tutorial area, eventually I'm going to have to talk to my foster father, Gorion, who was talked about in the middle of in the opening scroll, and then we will leave here. But in this section, you're supposed to, you know, learn the mechanics of how to fight. So, like, if you talk to this guy, you get your first little fighting thing. You enter each of the buildings, different little things happen. But what this guy did was give me a quest to kill some rats. Now, they're freaking rats, okay? There's a fun little thing in D&D where a house cat is a legitimate threat to first-level characters. But rats really are not. They do, like, 1 point of damage if they hit you, and their hit points are so freaking low, and it's so easy to hit them, that it's practically impossible for them to be of any real threat to anyone. You can, in almost every single level of difficulty, including insane difficulty, you can walk in here as a mage with the lowest possible hit points, wielding a quarterstaff you're not proficient in, and you could actually probably still get out of here alive and win. However,
The slaughter is nigh.
watch this. You can see how much damage I'm doing. I'm trying to hit them. Look how much damage they are resisting. I should be doing, like, you know, 12, 13 points of damage here, but they're just freaking resisting whatever damage I do to them. And, like, I've done a decent amount of damage to this one guy. He's taken about 8 or 9 hit points by now. Now he's over 10. And look, he's barely freaking injured. Like, now, they're not really freaking hitting me because I've got quite high AC. But I guarantee you that even with my high armor class, which is because I've got the high dexterity, hang on, it's easy to show you here. Because I've got the high armor class, it's really hard for these rats to hit me. But when they hit me, and they will hit me before I kill all of them, I'm going to be dying. A lot. In fact, I'm surprised I've lasted this long. I'm genuinely surprised I've lasted this long. Yeah. These rats are amazingly lethal. I should have just gone with the pre-gen, not this character, the high AC, because that is actually making all the difference right now. But no, like 20 AC, normal starting characters, you cannot get 20 AC. 19 is the highest you can get, and I think it's only if you're an elf. Maybe if you're a halfling. I think, yeah, halfling and elf, I think, are the only ones you can get to 19 dexterity. But everybody else is limited to 18 dexterity at the most. And the difference between 18 dexterity and 20 dexterity is actually quite substantial. But I mean, look at this. Like, this is taking so freaking long, and they are resisting all of this damage. For most other classes, you just die to the rats in this mode. Again, I'm really surprised I haven't. There is one other thing, and this is what often guarantees your death in this circumstance as well. In Baldur's Gate 1, your weapons break. This is not true for any of the other games, but if you are wielding a weapon made of iron, so any sword, flail, morningstar, whatever, it will break. Now, quarterstaff and clubs are made of wood, they're fine. But all metal weapons will break.
Storm.
I got a critical freaking hit, and it was 3 damage. A resisted 21 damage. Yeah, this is why rats murder you at this stage of the game. Anyway. Yeah. I'm actually really surprised that I've lasted this long. I really am actually surprised, because I have so many times, like, I've never actually done it with a character with dexterity 20 here, which required fiddling with the rules. But every other time I've done it, and I've tried doing it in Legacy of Baal mode, I go into this room and you just die. You just die. Even worse, your weapon might break, and if it breaks, you're fighting with your fists, and then you can't even kill the rats. If you end up fighting with your fists, all you can do is knock the rats unconscious, and they eventually wake up. So, if you end up with a broken weapon and fighting with your fists, this is actually an impossible fight.
This may prove difficult.
Alright. Yeah, it's freaking rats! So yeah, the reason I mentioned the 255 thing earlier is because that's basically what's happened to these rats. When they programmed in the Legacy of Baal mode, what it was supposed to do was give just a small increase to the various different things. But for some specific enemies, instead of just giving them a small increase, it gave them a monumental increase, like these rats here. And they just never fixed it. Like they just completely overlooked it. This is only in the enhanced mode, the enhanced edition. It's one of those things where, yeah, I fucking killed a rat and gained 1 experience point for it. I can kill orcs faster than this at the moment. Yeah, I was saying something. Yeah, so the Legacy of Baal mode, it clearly wasn't properly tested out. They just gave a, you know, hey, arbitrary increase. And forgot that some of the hard coding, some of the old hard coding of the game, they never fixed it in the first place, and it caused those screw-ups. I was going to say, is that enhanced? I don't think I've ever struggled with these rats. Yeah. In sane mode, the rats can also be a threat, but they're not like this. In Legacy of Baal mode, these resistances are stupidly insane. Like, again, 3 damage, 23 resistant. That should have been 26 damage there. Anyway. That's all we're going to do for that. So, right now, I'm going to check to see if Liam is awake. If Liam is awake, we'll be switching over to Dark Souls. If he's not, I will be taking you through this game from this point onwards, and we will just be gunning at this and seeing if this will work. So, let's see if the Liam is conscious. Nope, doesn't look like he's conscious. Alright, looks like we're going to be doing the Baldur's Gate thing from the top now. What I'll do is I will stop this stream. That way it will take up a separate save file for when I load it to YouTube. And I'll start a fresh new stream in a few moments. So, see you all shortly.